The series kicks off with potential buyers touring Lydia and Paul's house. Greg, their realtor, is showing the couples around while Lydia and Paul watch them on a hidden camera from upstairs. One couple, Dennis and Carla, seem interested. Dennis says he would have loved to live in a house like this as a kid. Carla, who is pregnant, seems to like it too. Another couple, Leslie and her wife Sarah, talk about how much they've always admired the house. They point out that just because they don't have kids doesn't mean they're not a family. Margot, someone Lydia clearly doesn't like, shows up to see the house too. Lydia tells Paul that Margot seems thrilled to judge them on the house. She even says she'd rather burn the place down than sell it to someone like Margot who doesn't deserve it. Paul disagrees. He reminds Lydia that all their money's gone because of the second mortgage, and they've waited long enough to sell. Lydia gets emotional, saying all their memories are in this house. Paul points out that he grew up there too, but a lot of his memories aren't so great. He says they need to sell and maybe start fresh in Cambria if they can get a bidding war going. Lydia agrees, but insists they find buyers who appreciate how special the house is. As Lydia gets ready to meet the potential buyers, Paul notices someone on the camera he recognizes and tells her to stay upstairs. Later, Lydia reminisces about how lively the house was when their kids were young. She tries calling her son Jacob, but only gets his voicemail. Meanwhile, Paul is working in the garage when an old acquaintance, Mikey, shows up. Mikey just got out of prison after serving 3 years for drugs. He's angry Paul didn't visit him and demands $80,000 by tomorrow, reminding Paul that he helped him out when he needed it most and paid the price for it. When Paul says he doesn't have the money, Mikey threatens to reveal what really happened in the house. Then he shoves Paul's hand into an electric saw, leaving him bleeding. Paul heads home and bandages his hand. Dennis, one of the buyers, tells his mom he wants the house, but she warns him not to bite off more than he can chew. He insists he has money from his last novel and that Carla is doing great financially. Elsewhere, a famous actor named John calls his agent Lenny about his own financial troubles. Lenny reminds John he shouldn't have bought the most expensive house on the block. John admits he bought it for his wife Margot and is desperate to keep her happy. Lenny suggests it's time to downsize. As John considers the advice, he looks at Lydia and Paul's house. At Lydia's house, she is getting her antique piano tuned by Jerry. He knows Lydia is a talented musician and says the piano belongs in a museum. When he asks her to play, she imagines herself doing it, but in reality, her hands shake and she hides them in her lap. Meanwhile, Margot tries convincing her partner Gwen, a developer, to buy Lydia's house. She suggests tearing out the tree and adding a pool to make a profit. She also pitches the idea of becoming Gwen's business partner. Paul is surprised to find Lydia cooking. She notices his bandaged hand and he tells her Mikey's back and demanding money. He's worried Mikey could destroy them because he knows too much. Paul tells her to start packing while he figures something out. Dennis discusses the house with Carla, admitting they can't afford it if they hire a nanny. He suggests his mom could sell her New York place, move in with them, and help raise the baby. Carla doesn't seem thrilled with the idea. It turns out John is married to Margot. He thought she was having dinner with a friend, but doesn't realize she was with her lover. That night, Leslie sneaks back to Lydia and Paul's house to check out a locked room she noticed earlier. She sneaks in through a side gate, but gets soaked by the sprinklers. The commotion wakes Paul and Lydia. Paul grabs gloves and retrieves a gun he hid in the basement, while Lydia heads to Jacob's room and leaves him another voicemail. John tells Margot he's interested in Lydia's house. Margot mentions it's no surprise they're selling now, since they don't have to disclose that their son died in the house after 3 years. Meanwhile, Lydia looks at a picture of Jacob and breaks down, saying she misses him and wishes she could feel his presence. When the bedroom lights flicker, she takes it as a sign that he's there and smiles, saying hi. Paul tells Lydia the coast is clear outside and hides the gun in the piano. A flashback shows the same gun on the floor next to a man's body in a pool of blood, with a woman screaming in the background. Leslie, who saw Paul with the gun, rushes to her car and drives off.